And again, this one, I think I'm going to change the deadlines for this a little bit since there was so many people. I didn't realize that doing like the close and stuff would be such a challenge. So I'll bump the deadlines, and anyone who submitted stuff early, I'll give you like a small extra credit for getting that in on time. But the print, I feel like that's pretty much the same as we've been doing before. Goes through like looking at print quality, all that stuff. For the prop, the only thing I really want to note for this, so since this should be theoretically painted by the time we come back to class, again, please do take good pictures of the in-progress model before you paint it so that I can actually get a sense of what the print quality was. So do that like before you take, what am I saying? Before you patch all of the holes with filler primer, and then you can also take some pictures after you've done filler primer. And do that. And I guess in this case, so I'm just going to try to very gently break your models when I get back, which is probably just going to be me like, all right, I'm just going to like hold this a few inches above the table and like drop it. And that's probably all I'm going to do to these. So I'll do that when we get back. If any of you guys happen to be in like Thursday of next week and want me to drop your unpainted print, feel free to find me on Thursday. I get done at class at like 12:30, and I can abuse your prints before you've spent a bunch of time painting them if you so choose. And then again, week 5 is like the paint job and finishing. So for paint job and finishing I'm usually looking for stuff like, is the surface finish even? You know, have you taken time to like make the layers underneath nice? And then if you're doing any kind of like detailed painting or dry brushing or anything like that, like are there, you know, colors smudged where they shouldn't be? Basically just like overall how refined is it? Kind of consider it as like texturing for animation, honestly. Like doing something with like nice wear and tear is gonna get, or like a nice like interesting metal effect, is gonna get you more points than just sort of like spray painting a thing red and then turning it in. That being said, so print quality and finishing also paint job and finishing also applies to like how well you smooth your model. And I will say that if you guys ever want to do like chrome stuff or like super shiny paints, and you get that model like, even if it's not like a super crazy paint job, if you get that model super smooth to the point where like I can't tell it's 3D printed before you paint it, that would also qualify, because that is an unholy amount of work. Like shiny paint show off flaws like you don't even understand. It's so bad. So if you can get, again, like something that doesn't even look 3D printed and is like super smooth with a really nice coat of paint and it looks like car paint on a mask basically, like that would also get you a bunch of points if you weren't into like weathering and all that kind of stuff. That pretty much goes for like any paint job and finishing in the future. You guys have any questions about that? Cool. If you guys are ever in the 3D printed armor and props group, everyone posts these like crazy smooth masks and it's just like, oh my God, like I don't even try to get stuff that smooth. It's just awful. All right, so apart from that, the Halloween mask model is due next week. So in case I didn't mention this, a bunch of you guys have been asking me, can I do stuff from like games or whatever, and that's totally cool. If you guys don't want to do like an original design mask. It also incidentally makes your prints or your files and or prints more marketable if you ever want to get into like selling files, because people buy stuff they recognize most of the time. So the only requirements for this is it must be printed to fit an actual human head. I do recommend modeling it to scale so that you have ultimate control over your, you know, the wall thickness and stuff like that. And if this isn't designed to fit on your own personal head, either drag that person to class and prove with the mask on their face that it fits their head, or just like take a picture of it on their head. And then the final mask must be painted. Those are the only real requirements for this. You'll probably need to print it in multiple pieces because those printers are tiny. But it's not a requirement if you can somehow fit it in one piece. It pretty much just needs to be a painted, finished, wearable human mask. Yeah, suggestions for earning more points, etc., etc. The calipers may have been a lie. I did not print calipers for you guys, but what you can do, This is my really janky way of taking measurements of stuff. If you have like, it requires 3 rulers, but you can take like a ruler and basically put 2 T-squares on it and sort of like squish them against your head and then measure the distance between those rulers. That'll give you accurate measurements on your head. The other thing that you can do, which is going to be probably the most ridiculous thing a teacher's ever done in class, is use a door frame to measure your head. So if you take a door and you put your head in it, and you close the door on your head, and you measure this gap, it will give you the distance of your head. The door is very heavy, I just brushed it into my skull. So you can do that if it's like hard to get a measurement on your skull. That actually really hurt. But yeah, so there's like a bunch of different ways you can measure your head. I also recommend before you spend like 30 hours printing some kind of really crazy, complicated model, if you're concerned, about part of it like fitting over your whole head or like fitting around part of your head, take like a really thin slice of it and just run that through the printer and just see if it fits over whatever part of your head it should. If it does, awesome, start your print. If it doesn't, maybe like resize that and then do another little test print. Like for that weird head that I sliced earlier in Simplify 3D with like the 8 faces on it, I wanted it to fit over my whole head, and it took me 3 iterations of hole sizes to figure out what would actually fit over my head, because I'm apparently bad at taking measurements. So again, that test print of like a 10-minute circle saved me printing the mask 3 times. And then this is just like a dumb thing, but like I don't really care what the print quality on the inside looks like, but do just like avoid sharp stuff that can stab your face, because it's just not fun to wear. So either like sand that out or just like try to avoid it to begin with in the print. And I guess the notes about models, which isn't super relevant for next week. But yeah, so as usual, I'm grading on like complexity of the object. And I'm probably going to tweak this off of originality and design, since you can do stuff from games. And I'll just do like originality of design or how well you've represented your reference images if you've chosen to use them. So for this week, what to submit: an image showing the object that you were recreating. If it was something from a game, hand-drawn sketches is fine for like original stuff, as well as a screenshot of your render. And do split and unsplit. So I did actually mean split and unsplit when I said that last week, I realized. But basically I just meant like the whole mask is one, and then how you've cut it to fit it on the print bed. I just want to see all those different pieces and how you've chosen to cut it. And then, again, you can just do like an OBJ on a prop of like a really generic head model. And I will provide you guys with a generic head model. Which will be that weird one that I have been using forever in class. So it'll be at least sized to my head. Size it to whatever head your mask is supposed to be fitting on. And again, just like this is more, I guess, relevant for the actual printing. So that's what's due this week for the mask. Are there any questions about that, or like mask project in general? Cool. Apart from that, so again, think about what you might want to start doing for your final. And think about it in terms of something that you might like doing, but also something that, now that you've done like a few prints, something that would also be feasible to do in terms of time and where you think your strengths are in terms of like printing and finishing, that kind of stuff. So in 2 weeks, again, when we come back, there'll be like some little mini presentations about what you guys want to do for the final. So nothing actually due next Monday, the 14th, for that, just sort of start thinking about things. And then so again, there's still assignments due, we just don't have class next week. So you just want to go ahead and print the Halloween mask, and then make sure you can, for the prints, you can glue them together or you can not. I would recommend starting to glue them together if you can, if they're finished in time. Just because, again, a lot of this is dependent on like waiting for different paints to dry, so the earlier you do that, the better position you'll be to have things in on time. Pretty much the same submission stuff as I've been doing, just like, again, assembled mask on people's face and like show me a picture of all the different iterations and like failed prints and stuff you have. Pretty much just that. Apart from that, you will also be finishing your prop. So, smoothing it and painting it. And pretty much, yeah, I've basically gone over this already. So again, this one I'm requiring a lot of pictures of the sort of in-progress stuff. So all iterations of just like raw print straight off the printer, failed, successful, etc. Also, again, pictures of your model before you attach them together, sort of laid out in like a sort of how they're supposed to be attached together. And then 3 pictures of you sort of doing the filling and gap filling process. So maybe do one where you've just glued them together, put like a layer of filler primer on, then a picture of like after the filler primer's on and like the next layer of sanding that you do, etc. And then 3 pictures, try to make them decent looking, of the finished print. But that's basically what I'm looking for the prop. And again, how you finish it is largely dependent on what prop you chose. If you're working off of reference, try to, I guess, match that paint job as closely as possible. And again, if you want like super smooth chromy looking stuff, you're gonna need to put way more effort into the finishing, or like the smoothing process, and try to get rid of as many layer lines as humanly possible. If you're doing something with more weathering or like, scraping and gunk in it, you can usually get away with doing a little bit less of the smoothing because a lot of the paint is just gonna sort of like cover those details, if that makes sense. That's basically that. Any questions on the prop or the mask homeworks? Cool. Apart from that, you also have week 5 when you come back is the final pitch, which doesn't need to be like some super crazy long thing. Did I go over the final with you guys? I feel like I left it, okay. So I left it pretty open. It's, again, designed to be kind of whatever interests you guys. If you guys are really into like terrain, go hamsies on terrain ideas. If you guys are into like prop making, you can do that. If you guys are into functional objects, you can tailor your final towards that. Like I want it to be something that you guys are interested in and care about, so that it's not completely painful to work on for you guys. My only real requirements are like, it should be of reasonable difficulty to work on. So like, if you're doing some kind of prop, it should be more complex than like the assignment you did for the prop assignment, since you'll be working on it for weeks at a time. Again, something you're interested in. And I'm gonna be doing a really weird thing where I'm gonna be running like a separate email chain with all of you guys and treating this as if I was like a client and you were doing freelance work for me. So I've been doing freelance stuff for like a few years, and I've amassed a strange collection of stories and experiences of crazy clients, and I will be your crazy client. So throughout this process, I'll just be, again, like emailing you as if I was a client, kind of doing things that I've seen clients do in the past. Because even if you never do freelance work, you'll probably end up working for some kind of crazy boss at some point. Like, may as well practice interacting with them now. And you'll sort of be incorporating this in future, future presentations of sort of how has your crazy freelance thing been going, and like, is there anything that, at the end, like, do you now consider like red flags for clients to be like, X, Y, and Z kind of thing. It's designed to be sort of fun and silly, but like also get you thinking about things that clients actually harass people about sometimes. I had a 20 email argument with someone about just like literally explaining to them what metallic paint was. You don't understand until you get the crazy ones. Anyway, and also finding ways to optimize your print times whenever possible, both for efficiency and courtesy to your classmates. So it's not, you don't like need to do group projects or anything like that. If you guys want to do like a full set of armor or something like that, even if you can get it modeled in that amount of time, there's no way that you can individually each print like a full set of armor. But if you wanted to team up to work on a group set of armor, that's like something that I would be totally open to. You're just gonna kind of want to look at, again, ways that you can feasibly get this done, and who's gonna do what. Treat it as sort of like a project pitch for like, this is actually how I'm gonna organize this when I'm doing it, if that makes sense. You can also do a series of props. Again, like if you want to do a series of different weapons from Skyrim or something like that. A series of terrain pieces or minis that are somehow related. I'm very slowly working on an electric ukulele, so if you guys are like into instruments, you can make your own 3D printed weird electric instrument. So like any of that is just like stuff that I personally would be into, but again, whatever you guys are interested in, I'm totally open to working with you and figuring out some kind of final to suit your interests. Any questions with any of that? Cool. All right, so I have included breakdowns. So this final document is like really long. I have some like miscellaneous examples. And then if you scroll down in this little outline over here, I'll have the requirements for each of the individual assignments for that final. It just kind of seemed more organized to keep them all in the same doc. But this is the first pitch, and this is what's due week 5 when you guys come back. Think of at least 3 ideas that you want to do for your final. And for each idea, just like really briefly go through what interests you, why do you think it's suitable for a final project, and then any concerns you may have about the idea, like print times, model complexity, any like painting, anything like that. Also, do your best if you can to guesstimate, like hopefully this will take maybe this much filament and this much time. It can be a little hard to do, and those numbers are like not something I'm holding you to by any means. It's just kind of good to think about it. And then also provide reference images of what you want to make. So treat this again as if you're pitching it to a client. Imagine that you're trying to like sell me on this idea, and I'm like, well, how are you going to do this? Like, how are you actually going to make this? Lay that out in terms of like timelines you hope to accomplish, and again, maybe like painting stuff. How you might go about doing the painting stuff. It doesn't need to be like crazy detailed. I'm not looking for like 20-minute pitches from people. Just kind of like show me you're thinking about things. And yeah. Things you also might want to consider for this in preparation for me harassing you as a crazy client. Imagine that you are actually charging for this work. Like, what would you want to make for this project? Be prepared for me like trying to randomly haggle with you and like do weird stuff. How long do you expect it to take? I mean, in this case, you have like an actual school deadline, so it's kind of set, but give me that quote anyway. Think about stuff like, what's your refund policy? This is like a custom job and I decide I hate the model, like how do you accept payment? Like what are your refund policies, etc. And just try to like build that stuff in like really, really quick into the PowerPoint. Or however you choose to present this, doesn't have to be a PowerPoint, etc. Actually, I think I just say PowerPoint. Anyway, but yeah, so that's more or less what pitch 1 is. Are there any questions about sort of the format for that? Cool. So what to submit? I did actually just say a PowerPoint with whatever material you need to explain your ideas. And that could literally just be like one reference image of the thing, and you get up and you talk about it, and that's fine. Again, I don't need some crazy elaborate PowerPoint. I'm not looking for you to spend 80,000 years on this. I just want you to be able to get up and like talk about your idea, like be coherent, etc. You're also welcome to do this as like a PDF format, I guess, if you want. I think PowerPoint would probably just be easier. But also please drop me at least a few notes somewhere so that, like, obviously I'm paying attention to your presentations, but like I want to be able to go back and sort of like reference your thought processes. So just jot down like, any of your concerns or anything like that, like in the submission notes or in the PowerPoint like notes at the bottom, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much pitch 1. Any questions on that? Cool. Yes. So that is pretty much all of the stuff that is due this week and also next week. And with that, I'm basically done for the day. So those of you that don't care about ZBrush and close stuff, feel free to wander off. Those of you that do, I'll just go through really quick and like show you guys maybe a little bit like how to sculpt in ZBrush and like how a few different ways to make clothes in the time that we have.